Thank God it's Friday. Welcome to Friday Business. 55 minutes of doing current and relevant conversations. That's what awaits us here on Business Morning. I'm Mini John Mekwan. We start as usual from the oil space, where prices jumped more than 5% on Thursday after the Trump administration imposed further sanctions on Russia's two largest crude companies, citing Moscow's lack of serious commitment to a peace process to end the war in Ukraine. We see global benchmark Brent dropped 0.61% to close at $65.59 a barrel. U.S. crude oil was down 0.58% to settle at $61.43 a barrel. And some White House officials say that the new sanctions are related to plans for a meeting between President Donald Trump and Russian leader Vladimir Putin in Budapest falling through. And Trump has also been trying to pressure India to stop purchasing Russian oil. New Delhi is one of the biggest purchasers of Russian crude export. And so we'll see what happens. Now, let's see how this affects us or concerns us back here in Nigeria. Let's see that with the Chief Executive Officer of Petrol petrolng.com. The Chief Executive Officer is Mr. Jeremiah Olatide. Mr. Olatide, good morning and welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
Great.
Thank you.
I know you've been following what's happening, with Russia and crude oil and all of that. And suddenly last week we did see a change in the price of petrol in Nigeria. Yeah. I wonder if these events are related.
Yes. Just yesterday, the prices of diesel across Nigeria surged with 9%. So it shows that the international oil prices has a direct effect on our local prices here. And we all know that demand and supply is one major factor that determines international price and their local prices here. So hopefully, I just hope that there will be a stability.
So, but I don't know, U.S. is trying to pressure India and China, but mostly India at this time, not to purchase Russian oil. And of course, the meeting between Vladimir Putin and Trump has been cancelled and all of that, and EU has joined in sanctioning Russia. Britain, UK, they've also joined. I wonder if we should be expecting more shocks, or are we stable at this point, looking at the price now?
Yes. You could recall that the last time we had sanctions like this, prices rose to close to 10%. So anything is possible. We are currently at 5% increase in Brent crude and WTI. So it might rise to 9-8% over the weekend. But for me, I understand that Trump is a big advocate of peace. He wants he calls the war a senseless war. He wants the war to come to an end. So at the other hand, he is of the opinion that lower prices are the best for American. So I know this is just going to be temporal. Over time, prices will drop.
Talking about what's happening in our own domestic scene, because if we want to connect this to the global prices, we know that, I think crude purchased like 2 months contracts and all of that. So most likely, it's not this immediate increase that's affecting our petrol price. Do we know what's going on internally? Because it seems prices have changed now. It's now 920, 922 at the least in Lagos. And I know Lagos always has the cheapest because you still have up to 928 in Ogun State area and all of that. What's really happening?
Well, basically, in Nigeria at the moment, there is a supply glitch of PMS, that is petrol, and LPG, that is cooking gas. According to NMDPRA, they had a report that was dated on the 10th of this month, which the PMS sufficiency for this month is 11 days. And the cooking gas sufficiency for this month is just 2 days. That means we have very low stock in our tanks. And the reason is not far-fetched. We've had issues, we've had this back and forth between importers and Dangote, the Dangote refiner. And basically, the issues are pricing. For the LPG, we used to have quite few number of terminals with product in their tank. But as I speak with you, only one depot has product today. That's Navgas. And it affects the supply of cooking gas in Nigeria. So looking at Dangote as a whole, there were reports that he had maintenance. He went on maintenance few months ago. And those factors have had influenced on our petrol and cooking gas in our market today.
I thought they said it was the strike by Pengerson that has affected the cooking gas, the LPG, that we're still suffering up till now.
Yeah, okay, let me just give you an overview. The difference, the price disparity between the private depot and Dangote for cooking gas is between 150 to 200. Dangote ex-depot price for LPG stands at 715. Ex-depot price 715. Why the ex-depot price for private depot in Lagos, as I speak with you, stands at 920. It's like a 200 naira difference. So some of those importers are not encouraged to bring in LPG. That is why you see scarcity. You see short supply in those depots. We have, quite frankly, we have close to 5 to 6 LPG terminals in Lagos, but just only one of them has product as we speak.
Because they are not encouraged to
bring,
import.
Yes, to import because of the price differences. Yeah.
Because obviously consumers will go for the cheaper one.
Yes. So Dangote sells cheaper. Even in PMS, currently, we still have that glitch. As I speak with you, in Lagos, we have just 7 depots dispensing PMS as we speak. And against the 52 registered depots in Lagos. So we have short supply of PMS and LPG in Nigeria because of the price disparity and also internal issues that have been playing out between Dangote and the marketers.
Speaking as someone who is inside, the value chain, is there a sabotage? Is it a system issue? Is it a policy issue? I know everybody talks about the PIA and all of that. They're supposed to protect the domestic refiner, even though there's also the competition of balancing that with, dealing with monopoly or avoiding monopoly and all of that. Is this a sabotage or what's really going on?
Well, for me, I feel the coming of Dangote, the advent of Dangote is still a big shock to the marketers and the importers. So they are still trying to work around the policies from Dangote refinery. Dangote, this year alone, he has reviewed his prices close to 20 times, upward and downward. And those price reviews, they've had effects on the importers. Because as an importer, when you bring in product and your product is on sea, and the landing cost for that particular product is, for example, 840, and it gets to Nigeria, and Dangote review is priced downward, you see, that is a shock for them. So, for me, there is kind of an imbalance between the Dangote refinery and the importers. They are still trying to come to a level playing ground to make sure that supply is normalized and pricing is normalized. But as I speak with you, there's an alignment between Dangote and the private depot where he approved 20 depot owners to offtake 30 million liters in a month. That gives us 600 million liters in a month. So I think they started on the 10th of this month. So over time, the collaboration should come in, not even the competition. Because Dangote is a refiner. is the seventh biggest refinery in the world. It needs to collaborate with the depot owners, not the competitive situation that's happening between them. And over time, I feel there will be a balance. But because he is just coming in, and definitely there will be a fight for who is going to dominate the market. And I'm sure there will be an alignment soon.
But doesn't that alignment bring up the concerns around monopoly?
Yes, there are concerns about monopoly. And I also share that thought about monopoly. But if you look at it, we've had supply glitch in the last 25 years. But Dangote has sorted out that issue when it comes to supply. With the last two festive seasons, we've had smooth seasons in terms of petrol distribution, for distribution in Nigeria. And it is because of the heavy supply from the Dangote refinery. So, at the other hand, I still feel that importers and importation should have their space in our energy industry. Because for us to have energy security, we need a combination of local refining and importation. But what we're having now is we're having more of importation to the local refining. According to NMDPRA, the report we had 63% importation of PMS against 37% domestic refining. So that's, for me, that's imbalance.
So I guess that should be a challenge to the government.
Yeah.
We have refineries that are not working.
Yeah.
So even the concerns around monopoly, if we had our Port Harcourt, our Kaduna, our Warri working efficiently, I'm sure we won't have the percentage of domination or dominance that Dangote has.
Yes, our 4 refineries have the capacity of 455,000 barrels per day. That is close to the 650,000 barrels of Dangote. So if those refineries are working, that is a space for competition at the refinery level. And we have the Boa refinery coming up with 200,000 barrels per day. So the fear of monopoly shouldn't be there, because we have other refiners that are going to come in. But where the federal government should look into is the privatization of our refineries. Only private entity would manage refineries very well. If you look at the top 10 largest refineries in the world, 7 out of 10 of them are managed by private entity. The biggest refinery in the world is managed and owned by a private body. Government does not really have business running a refinery all over the world. So they need to privatize a reasonable part of it, most likely to the depot owners and the importers. They've been in the business for a while. They understand the trading and importation of petroleum products. Moving to the refining space will be like a walkover for them. Unlike the Dangote that is just coming in, that is finding difficult trading. Because what we are seeing with this policy somersault is because he's new in the trading terrain of petroleum products. That's why every now and then he keeps coming up with different policies and all of that. But over time, he's going to understand the trading part of the business, and there will be normalcy in the petroleum industry.
What about talks that perhaps even getting private individuals or corporations to buy into a refinery will be a big thing, because it's going to require a lot of capital. To resuscitate those refineries is going to also demand a lot of capital. So perhaps that's why the government is not quick to put it up for privatization.
I don't think so. The depot owners they're also big guys. They could come together, collaborate. They're also big guys. We have the Matrix, we have the Aerano, we have the Rain Oil of this world. They could come together, collaborate, and buy shares from these refineries. If given this chance, they would manage our government refineries very well as private entity. They've been in business for over 2 decades. They know how to raise capital. They will definitely raise capital get this refinery and get it running. And there will be a balance at the refinery level, and Nigeria will be a net exporter of refined product
That's what we're
Africa.
looking for. But,
yeah.
So let's end on this note. The statement you made is quite scary, that we have a supply glitch, and then we have PMS sufficiency. I think you said 11 days.
Yeah, 11 days.
And then LPG of
just 2 days.
Is it today and tomorrow? That's a huge one.
Yeah.
Are there talks as to how to normalize this so that we don't see the queues back?
Yeah. Well, for me, I think Dangote is trying all he can to make sure that there is a balance in supply. But I understand that last month he had one of the lowest crude intake, which was one of the major factors. Last month, he relieved 800 staff, which could be a second factor.
But I heard he moved them to another part of his company, away from refining.
Yeah, from refining. So definitely.
So getting new hands, having them get used to the system.
Will have an effect. And thirdly, there is always a routine maintenance in every refinery, and that is playing out at Dangote refinery. It means that a country like Nigeria that consumes 50 million liters daily of petrol, 14 million liters daily of AGO, 3 million liters daily of ATK, and 3,900 metric tons of LPG should not depend on a single refinery, because our demands for petroleum product in Nigeria is very huge. We need other refineries to work. We need our government refineries to be privatized so they will have availability. We will have substitute to our supply, because our major supply now seems to be the Dangote refinery.
Yeah, that's so obvious.
And Dangote refinery is saying that, oh, you don't have to report. You don't have to import. I have
enough
310 million liters, and that's not even enough. 310 million liters is not, it's very low compared to our demand in Nigeria. So we need alternatives to our supply in Nigeria to create that balance, because we have a growing demand in Nigeria. Our daily consumption still remains at 50 million according to NMDPRA, and we need a robust supply chain to meet up
multiple
with it.
Supply chain.
To meet up with
Thank you so much for taking us, even though you leave us with some fear there, but I hope it's not cause another chaos. So thank you so much, Chief Executive Officer of Petroleum Price NG, Mr. Jeremiah Olatide, for your time.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Thank you.
All right, now moving on to other issues, of course, going on in Nigeria is the federal government. The total revenue inflow increased by 68.11% to 20.98 trillion naira at the end of last year. And that's in contrast to the 12.48 trillion naira revenue that was recorded in 2023. This is according to the latest report from the Budget Office of the Federation. In its fourth quarter 2024 budget implementation report, the Budget Office, however, explains that the figure was 18.92%. That's about 4.89 trillion naira lower than the 2024 annual budget estimate. The report also mentions that gross non-oil revenue rose 16.09 trillion naira last year, which is 48.91% of 5.29 trillion naira increase above the 10.81 trillion naira annual estimate. A breakdown of non-oil revenue items shows that company income tax, value-added tax, electronic money transfer levy, and customs contributed to the impressive performance for the year. On the other hand, gross oil revenue stood at 15.07 trillion naira, representing a 24.65%, that's about 4.93 trillion naira decline from the 19.99 trillion naira projected in last year's budget. The Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry has asked the federal government to review the 4% free on-board levy on exports to expand the list of exempted products. The president of LCCI, Mr. Gabriel Dahosa, who made this known at the State of the Economy event in Lagos, says that the 4% review should have a particular focus on items related to agricultural input, renewable energy, and industrial machinery. Mr. Dahosa also mentions that the current levy, though aimed at raising revenue, is undermining export competitiveness and discouraging domestic production. The LCCI president recommended that the review should align with trade facilitation and productivity goals rather than penalizing producers. And still at that meeting, Mr. Idahosa did share some concerns and areas that he believes should be focused on by the federal government. Of course, that was at the quarterly press briefing on the state of the economy by the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Mr. Idahosa brings to focus the IMF's recent World Economic Outlook, which underscores three critical concerns relevant to Nigeria. There's the debt sustainability, revenue mobilization, and diversification.
External debt obligations of approximately $2.3 billion in 2025 amid rising domestic borrowing costs. While efforts to digitize tax administration are commendable, there is still a need to expand the tax base, rationalize exemptions, and enhance efficiency. The Chamber supports debt transparency and the pursuit of concessional financing that is tied to productivity-enhancing projects. We, however, caution against excessive tax increases that may weaken enterprise competitiveness. Instead, technology-driven revenue reform, prudent expenditure, and accountability should define our fiscal direction. We also note 6 key global risks shaping Nigeria's external environment. Escalating geopolitical tensions in the Middle East and Europe, the prolonged US government shutdown since October 1, growing protectionism and trade barriers, softening labor markets in advanced economies, persistent inflation despite disinflationary trends, and overvalued financial assets that heighten the risk of market correction.
All right, now let's look at how the market closed yesterday in Nigeria. We saw a positive close, and the surge is still on. The optimism is still very much, sentiment is still very much in the market. We saw a jump from 153, which is opened with at the beginning of trade, to 144,489.90. It was a 0.49% increase on the all-share index. Equities cap is getting really close to the 100 trillion naira. I think we'll pop a champagne once we hit 100 trillion. Hopefully it will be this year, 98.059 is what it closed with yesterday. Activity was all green yesterday. A lot of positive sentiments going on right there. Volume, value, and deals. Top gainers yesterday, PZTIP and ASO Savings. That's a mortgage bank. And the top losers had Lotus Shore Insurance, John Holt, and Multiverse. But the drivers of the market yesterday to that positive territory, Japol Gold and Fidelity Bank, WAPCO also contributed to that. So it was a positive market for stockbrokers or stock investors in the stock market yesterday. Still around the market, Nigeria's Treasury bills auction for October 2025, of course, was oversubscribed by 100 billion naira, with total bids hitting 750.91 billion naira against the 650 billion offered by the central bank. And despite the strong demand, only 391.58 billion was allotted as the government moved to manage debt levels. Yields rose across all maturities. The 91, 182, and 364 papers cleared at 15.30, 15.50, and 16.14 each, while true returns reached up to 19.25%. The one-year bill saw the highest interest, attracting 674 billion naira in bids. Analysts say investors are locking into longer tenured bills to enjoy high yields before potential rate cuts. I hope we'll see that rate cuts, seeing that there are some drivers of inflation that have resurfaced in the last few weeks. But away from that, the Financial Reporting Council, they have a new thing for small businesses to help boost their integrity and access some benefits that would come with that. They did that and unveiled it in Lagos. Members of the advisory committee of the Business Integrity Certification Initiative, organized by the Financial Reporting Council, are here to launch a new design to promote ethical business practices and improve corporate governance among small and medium-sized enterprises across the country.
The corporate governance reporting portal is set in such a way that they are self-assessing themselves. So at the end of the day, the results they are seeing is just based on understanding what they've been doing and how it's been working, whether it's sustainable, and then to note the areas where they should improve. And as they keep on subjecting themselves to these assessments, when they are comfortable, they can go on to the certification process, which exposes them to grants, to more business opportunities, to support from government agencies like the SMIDAN, CBN, and so on. They get exposed to all these opportunities where they can be supported and their business can be taken out of Nigeria. That's the essence of this, or to promote trade and investment both within and outside the shores of Nigeria.
With the benefits of easy access to finance, among other things, FRC invites all to participate.
It will help us be able to access more markets globally because we will now be able to compete with our peers who are also licensed on corporate governance. And I think that's what we need at this time to support MSMEs.
It gives you a badge of compliance, which means you've gone through an extensive self-assessment process. There's an independent self-assessment as well. And once you're able to scale through that process, it just shows that you can get preferred bidding, probably preferred interest rates as well, and just makes your due diligence process much faster than it would have been without the certification. So definitely very encouraged. I will encourage everyone to join into the website. It's free for the next couple of months, so take advantage of it and let's make Nigeria a better place.
The FRC believes that this reveals a new dawn for small businesses, which make up about 96% of operations in the country.
Take home is that integrity pays. Watch this space. All the things are coming together to be able to demonstrate that if you walk the path of integrity, you can actually prosper, even in an environment like Nigeria's business environment.
The initiative also has the target of making it easier for larger companies to trust smaller partners. Well, talking about investments and investors now, let's get out of the shores of Nigeria and see what's happening with our diaspora. Our Nigerians in diaspora, according to the International Organization for Migration, is at about 17 million. That's for 2024. A majority of them are in the US, the UK, and other African countries. But you also have a handful in Italy, Spain, Germany, Canada. I know with the jackpot that we had, I think 2 years ago, that has also increased that. Now, talking about remittances, in 2023, we saw that their remittances was about $20 billion. Obviously, that has touched the life of many families and small businesses because most of them come through the informal channel. However, CBN changed a whole lot of that with the new policies that were introduced. And so in 2024, we saw an 8.9% increase in remittances. It went up to $20.93 billion for 2024. The monthly remittance saw a significant boost in late 2024 as well as early this year, climbed from about 100 million to 600 million. That's a monthly increase, and it's been attributed to the reforms of the government. The CBN is targeting $1 billion of remittances by 2026. Now, I'm talking about investments coming from abroad into the country through Nigerians living abroad. The Diaspora Investment Summit recorded over 673 million naira in diaspora investment. That was in 2024, led by the creative sector. There are also other sectors that have been of interest to the Nigerians living abroad, and one of that is real estate. And so I had a conversation with our guests about a couple of weeks ago. I want to find out if there's been an improvement in the status quo. That's talking about Engineer Stella Okengu. She's the Chief Executive Officer of Win Homes. Engineer Okengu, good morning and welcome to the program. Good to have you again. I hope we have good news today compared to the last time you were on the program. I think you should
Hi, nice
unmute.
having
Okay,
me
yeah,
again, Indy.
yeah, great. I can hear you
Yes,
now.
sorry, I just unmuted.
Yeah, okay. I hope
Well,
we have a positive update.
um, we don't, for now, there is no good news. I don't want to beat around the bush about it. We don't have a good news. We had an invitation from the Federal Ministry of Work to come and have a dialogue with the minister. And we did a press conference in respect of that to, thank the president of Nigeria and the minister also for the dialogue. But we found out the next day he totally reprobated on what he said. So I was wondering why he's approbating and reprobating. This is the letter from Ministry of Work, Federal Ministry of Works. You can see that. So we have engaged our council. Our council has written twice to see if they can respond for us to come. We were even shocked that when he came to the site to say that the president has revoked and they have gotten judgments, which we are still in court, and there is no revocation. So I don't know what is happening. I don't know why he's approbating and reprobating. He also alleged that the way we brought money, this money that this fund that we brought in, we started bringing it in since 2021. This is a SCOMO, that is Special Control Unit Against Money Laundering in EFCC. So they have cleared us, and if we are bringing any illegitimate money or any money that is in bulk, CBN would have flagged us. So this is a contribution that started 2021 coming into Nigeria. And also, I saw the calculation you did on CBN on the remittance of foreign direct investment in Nigeria. 50% of that remittance comes from real estate. So I don't know. Foreign direct investment in real estate, it boosts Nigeria economy, and it creates jobs, stabilize naira, and drive infrastructure growth in Nigeria. Do you know that I didn't want to mention this before? I have a company in Mexico that imports tequila in Nigeria. I had to convince them that they have to come to Nigeria and invest. They were excited. They wanted to build an ultra-modern hospital in that estate. Their money is involved. As I'm talking to you, they are watching this from Mexico. They have bought their flight tickets to come back for dialogue. And the next thing we saw, the minister came and denied everything. So it's so traumatic and painful. The only thing we are asking is just we have rights. We have rights in our country. I'm from Nigeria originally, and also a US citizen. We cannot be out there making Nigeria proud, and they are instigating that we are demarketing Nigeria. What I am doing now is not what I expect from a serving minister. Before you go and demolish or take over somebody's property, even in America, they do it, eminent domain. You have to call, you have to compensate. Even in America, they will compensate you and even pay for restitution for it. We just came and all of a sudden, he took over the place and alleged that it's by the authority of the president. If I'm not in Nigeria for 8 months, I would have said it's the president. But I saw the selective diversion. There was a time we were there, and he came to the place. We wanted to make a video. He told us to shut down the video and chose the people that he diverted from. And went into our property. It's so sad. It's so sad. Even when they called us for a stakeholder engagement, I went for the stakeholder meeting only to be humiliated and threatened by the minister himself. He told me that if I continue to speak about this injustice, I will face the consequences. He told the police to throw me out of the meeting. Imagine that happening to a US citizen, a female investor who came in Nigeria representing hundreds of diasporans. He said that he wants dialogue. Affected people want to come back. They have selected their representative, including foreign partners. They want to come to Nigeria to come and meet with him. He said he has some of my clients that came to him, but you know, we have about 5 documents on the property, 5 CFOs. We have almost 20 hectares there. The affected part is the way home. You know, that he took more than 4 hectares that he alleged.
So, engineer, what really do you see as the way forward? Because at the end of the day, as you said, some investors are watching this now, and we're looking for how to boost diaspora investment and all of that. What is the way out now? Because I mean, the
way out, my demand is simple, Mr. President, to restore hope by ordering full compensation for all the diaspora investors whose property are illegally demolished, for an independent investigation into the conduct of what is happening there, reinforce the sanctity of court processes and private property rights, because without justice, there will not be any renewed hope. We came to this country because of renewed hope. We came to this to Nigeria because of renewed hope. I have companies there. I have logistic company here. Like I told you, I have a company in Mexico that produces a drink. And why I did that is for us to start bringing funds into Nigeria. My drink is in Nigeria. The name is Grand Lugo Tequila.
Okay, so
with everything they are doing, I'm still making an effort to bring in funds to Nigeria. I don't know, maybe because of the gender disparity. Honestly, I don't know.
I wonder if gender has
I don't like playing that gender this thing.
I know, right? I know, right? Yeah, but I mean,
I
the
don't
sentiment.
like playing it because my real estate is predominantly men. So I like saying facts, and I don't want it. But the way he's going about it, taking it personal, how can you come to a property that we are still in court and say that by the order of the president, you have that the property has been revoked? He is to hold the Lagos State government responsible. The Lagos State government was in Nigeria for 8 months. They did not demolish anything. She allowed the state government to take control of giving him the alignment.
All right,
which I know they would have followed the rule, just like Tokumbo Wahab is following the rule of anybody that built on the canal. Why the selective demolition and diversion? You need to go there. You will see that it's literally not a coastal road that he did there.
All right, Engineer Sula,
some people.
Yeah, Engineer Sula, we really feel your pain, of course, especially because you were able to pull in some funds from other investors, and a lot of those investors will be looking up to you, and that's why we stay on this conversation, and we promise to also push it. At least let's find a balance between the investors and the development, infrastructural development, which the government has promised along this Lagos-Calabar coastal road, and economic activities that it should bring to the country. So we'll stay on this issue, and hopefully everybody will be happy at the end of the day.
That's what we are praying for, because literally, if I want to demarket Nigeria, my investments will not be there.
Yes, please don't demarket Nigeria. Nigeria, I mean, we will all come back here one way or the other. Engineer Stella Okengu, the Chief Executive Officer of Win Homes, thank you so much for your time, and we do hope to hear good news soon.
I pray that we will hear good news, yes, and I'll come and testify.
Yes, so. All right, let's take a break. You're welcome back to watching Business Morning right here on Channels Television. So last week we started that conversation about how Nigeria, according to the IMF, is losing about $8 billion every year to illicit financial flows, and we started looking at some of those recommendations that they have given. We did that with Dr. Vincent Ahosi. He is the Chief Executive of Movie Consulting Limited, and we couldn't conclude that conversation last week, but we should be able to do that today. And just looking at some of those recommendations by IMF, strengthening governance and oversight, and Nigeria has been asked to conduct thorough governance diagnostics and strengthen oversight functions to monitor budgetary allocations and project performance effectively. Another recommendation is to enhance transparency, which could include publishing quarterly financial reports detailing revenues, expenditures, and procurement processes to rebuild trust, improve AML, CFT frameworks, strengthening anti-money laundering and combating financing of terrorism, focus on specific compliance gaps, protect whistleblowers in the country, increase public engagement, and strengthening institutions. This is, of course, the one that they've always talked about how individuals seem to be bigger and stronger than institutions in the country, which is why it does look like a group of people are able to do whatever they like against the law and not get punished. So it's one of the recommendations of IMF to strengthen institutions and make them stronger than individuals. Dr. Ahosi, good morning, and thank you so much for joining us again today. What are your thoughts on these recommendations? Have we started any of them?
Thank you so much, Ms. Ini. We already had the conversation last week that there are 40 recommendations involved, and Nigeria has complied for that. Nigeria has not been able to, comply with fully, and that is what is keeping Nigeria as a nation in the gray list of the FATF. Sorry. Now, and I said in that conversation that is making it difficult for the Nigerian state to be able to comply. The first is recommendation R12, which has to do with politically exposed persons, either locally or externally, in terms of local politically or foreign politically exposed persons. The second one is R15, which has got to do with new technologies. We have R22, which has to do with customer due diligence in terms of designated non-financial businesses, which has to do with other measures concerning, again, designated non-financial businesses and professions. So now let's quickly go into it so that we can know why it's difficult for Nigeria to comply with this. For Nigeria to exit the FATF grey list, we have to work with FATF to address these strategic deficiencies. We have to implement action plans, and we have to demonstrate, we must demonstrate success with. So now let's look at the first one that I talked about, R12, politically exposed persons. And this has a subsections. First is that the financial institutions are required, whether in addition to doing their normal CDD, what we call CDD is the normal customer due diligence. In addition to this, you have to have appropriate risk management. One, to determine whether that customer or beneficial owner of that, and if you do find out that they are, you have to obtain a senior management approval for establishing that business relationship with them, or if they have had one before, or continue that relationship. So a senior management. Number three, you have to take measures to establish their source of wealth and the source of those funds involved. And number four, you have to conduct an ongoing and enhanced monitoring. As if that is not worthy enough considering the Nigerian context, is the requirement that for all politically exposed persons, you have to do the same for their family members as well as their close associates. Simply put, if you want to open an account, governor's wife or a personal assistant to a governor, one, the bank has to find out what your source of wealth is. Two, they have to determine your source of funds. And in Nigeria, without saying much, we all know what that means. Because it's almost, politically, or rather, operationally difficult in the Nigeria context for a young banker to ask a politician, how do you make your money? So that is one of the reasons. The second one has got to do with new technologies, which is R15. And R15 simply says that countries and financial institutions are required, one, to identify and assess money laundering and terrorism, got to do with development of new products, development of new practices, and development of new delivery mechanisms. Now, this one may sound not so difficult because you say, okay, the banks are always, upgrading their systems and all. It goes far beyond that. Number two, it says the use of new and developing technologies for both new and pre-existing products. You just have to be able to make sure that they should not facilitate money laundering, terrorist financing. And you have to do this risk assessment before you introduce the new products. This is more important when you now go to issues around what we call virtual assets. Virtual assets, you have the digital assets, you have the normal, routine assets. These are things that when we now put it side by side, new development of technologies, it is a big one. What is a virtual asset, for example? It's a digital representation of value. It can be digitally traded. It can be transferred. It can be used for payment, and it can be used for investment purposes. Now, the most common one is the crypto. The cryptography. They are primarily depend on cryptography, and they use what we call DLT, the distributed ledger technology, and that's why we call them cryptocurrency. Presented through the use of again DLT, distributed ledger technology. Now, when we hear DLT, the fear or rather the key thing about DLT is this.
I think we're really trying to be patient there with Dr. Ahosi, but the network is not really stable. So, but I know that Dr. Ahosi has shared some of those areas which he believes, especially talking about the politically exposed individuals and their family members, not just them, dealing with that and building that institution as IMF has recommended stronger than individuals. That would be one major way to go. Thank you so much, Dr. Ahosi. Unfortunately, we're not able to conclude the conversation because of the internet. It's just going on and off. I know that by God's grace, one of these days will be done. We'll be able to get to the end of your thoughts. And of course, you do have a whole lot to share, saying that you've worked closely with Oxfam even before now. Dr. Vincent Ahosi is the Chief Executive, Movic Consulting Limited. And we're just able to glean a bit of the knowledge that he has for us, and hopefully we'll be able to get him back to do, more of it for everyone's enjoyment without all the interruption from the network right there. Let's see what's happening in the global space. And from the global space, U.S. President Donald Trump has announced an immediate end to all trade negotiations with Canada over adverts critical of the tariffs which he has imposed on the nation. The advert, sponsored by the government of Canada's province of Ontario, quoted Trump's predecessor, Ronald Reagan, an icon of U.S. conservatism, saying that tariffs hurt every American. And so, because of that, no more trade talks between the U.S. and Canada. Over in Spain, unemployment rates rose to 10.45% in the third quarter of 2025 as the number of people with jobs rose to a new record. Data from the National Statistics Institute showed this, and the rate bounced back from the lowest level since the first quarter of 2008 as more people search for a job. And Spain added 118,400 new jobs in the quarter. Over to Germany, where the private sector recorded its strongest growth in nearly 2.5 years in October, buoyed by a robust rise in services activity. The HCOB preliminary German Flash Composite Purchasing Managers Index, compiled by S&P Global, rose to 53.8 in October from 52.0 in September. That marks the fastest growth since May 2003. And then away from that, in France, French business activity declined at its fastest rate since February, with HCOB Flash France Composite PMI Output Index dropping to less than 50, which we see is from 50 is where you have progression. 46.8 is what it is in October from 48.1. The latest data marks the 14th consecutive month of contraction in France's private sector economy. Global News also brings us to the end of Business Morning today. Thank you so much for being a part of this Friday edition. Remember, you can watch it all over again on our YouTube channel. But I'll be back at 1:30 for Business Incorporated. We'll do the markets and a whole lot more. I'm Ini John McQuarrie. Talk to you later.